What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Clean Sheet of Ice, a Texas hockey podcast presented by Apollo Media. I'm your host, Stone Strankman, joined always by Dom Garcia. We're here to talk some Texas hockey. A rough weekend for the boys up in Dallas. The Stars did not show up for either game, where we thought it was a playoff-type atmosphere and a playoff-type intensity that was needed. It didn't show up. But we've got another week. We've got more games of hockey to play, and it's time to talk about the Dallas Stars. Texas hockey podcast, Clean Sheet of Ice. Dom, how we doing, bud?
You know, I've had better weeks. Stars have had way better weeks. We lose 2 games. It's felt like just every single puck just doesn't go our way. But I did have a great Saturday. It was fun seeing all the people come out down here at St. Arnold's Brewery. We had a really fun time, met a lot of people, got some interviews, got some great content. And as bad as the Stars have played, they still found a way to get a point. And that's without world stars like Miro Haskin and you know, Tyler Sagan comes back to the playoffs. That's a different game.
Very different. Very different. But yeah, Saturday we had a great day at St. Arnold's. I know y'all stayed a lot longer, but I had to make the drive back up to Dallas, and I wasn't planning on doing that in the dark. So I got my tail out of there and went home, but got to see some Houston Aeros legends. We saw a lot of Stars jerseys, a lot of miscellaneous jerseys as well, but had a good time. Talked to some people. We'll get a clip out later this week about just who the people we talked to. We did some Billy on the Street interviews. We'll do a TikTok, little social media video, but we'll get that out later this week. And for now, we'll talk about the weekend that we did not thoroughly enjoy outside of Saturday. Saturday was great. Stars didn't play, and we were at St. Arnold's having a good time with good drinks, good people. Friday night, Winnipeg. They travel up there, and for some reason, we just get trounced up in Winnipeg every time in the regular season. It happened earlier in the year. Same score, I believe, 4-1. Mason Marchman got a goal with like 4 minutes left in the game to make sure it wasn't a shutout. But I always go back to the quote from Matt Duchene against the Ducks early in the season, early November. They lost that game, I believe, in regulation 2-1. And he said, we did not have enough intensity to win an NHL game today. And that's kind of what it seemed like. No Rupe Hintz, obviously. No Liam Bichel. Liam Bichel's actually been the best Stars defenseman over the last 2-3 weeks by metrics. Saw that tweeted out yesterday. But yeah, the Winnipeg game, they just didn't look ready to play. And they had 4 full days off. Only practiced 2 days before that. They took Monday and Tuesday off after their road trip, and they haven't been home. For a while now. Mikko Rantanen has not played a home game until tonight, Tuesday, March 18th. I'll be there in the building. I'll get to see Mikko's debut in Victory Green, so that'll be fun. But yeah, they just didn't have enough intensity to win that game. Winnipeg didn't look terribly sharp, but they were getting shots on net and high danger chances, as opposed to the Stars, where every chance was beyond the circles. It wasn't a good game.
Yeah, it felt when the defense broke down, I was already like assuming a goal was going to be scored by Winnipeg. And Connor Hellebuyck, what's so impressive to me is the deflections he stops. I think that's what sets him across from every other goalie in the NHL. It's like, you know, everybody, they're really quick, they're really fast, they're really good. But to anticipate redirections and rebounds the way Connor Hellebuyck does, it's unreal to see. And he was on his game that night. Tip my cap to him. Yeah, it just when you have a first period like that, it's so rough to come back, and it might as well have been 3-4-0, like 10 minutes into the game, and just frustrating to watch. But luckily this season, those games haven't really come that often.
Yeah, and the big thing with Pete DeBoer as head coach is the Stars have not lost 3 regulation games in a row under his tenure, so you would think that they win against Anaheim tonight, or at least lose in overtime. Like, they're just not going to lose in regulation. It just doesn't happen. And Anaheim is a much worse team overall compared to Colorado and Winnipeg. So sucks that they didn't get up for those games, especially in Winnipeg. Like, you wanted to chase them down, try to get the 1 seed. You possibly win the President's Trophy, which I know a lot of fans don't want to do it, but I'll remind you, not the last time that they won the President's Trophy, but the Stars won the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup in the same season, 1999. People forget. It happened. But it's not going to happen anymore. It's too much, even with 2 games or 1 game in hand. And you need Winnipeg to really just fall off, which it doesn't seem like they're going to. They're a fast team. They play really good defense, and they have the best goaltender in the world right now. So tough to beat them.
I hate saying this, but they're very Houston Astros. The last time we won a title, that year, the Astros got swept once during the entire regular season, and it was a 2-game series. Like every time they lost, it was never, a bad week. It was one bad day, and they just are they going to run you out of the building? No, but they're always going to stay just kind of right on that floating line. And yeah, I mean, they win the President's Trophy. It's deserved, but just wait till we get our guys back.
Yeah, and I felt not necessarily bad, but weary about those games because they didn't get up for them, because you are more than likely going to miss some people in the playoffs, or you're going to have injured players playing the game in the playoffs. So seeing that as a test of how they might look in the playoffs was not great. It didn't look good. Obviously, Miko's only played a handful of games now. Rupe missed that game against Winnipeg. So lines are shuffling. It's
Yeah.
tough. They've been really good about winning games, even though they don't have certain players on their roster right now. But it just wasn't our day, wasn't our night. So if Hellebuck's going to do that in the playoffs, though, it's going to be hard to beat him. So
yeah, and listen, man, this playoff Hellebuck is different, and I don't mean it in a good way. I mean he'll get shaky, he'll get leaky. But you're right, we can't rely on that. We got to play Dallas Stars hockey, and to start the game you did, that's not Peter DeBoer's Dallas Stars hockey.
yeah, and we always say playoff Hellebuck is different, but he played really well in the Four Nations tournament in a playoff style atmosphere, in a high stakes atmosphere, and he played really well in those handful against the 3 games that he played. And I don't know if that's going to translate into NHL playoffs, Hellebuck, but it could. It could have given him the confidence to go into the playoffs a lot different than he did last year. Obviously, they won that game 1 against Colorado, but I think ultimately lost in 5 games. He was not great in that game 1 either. They gave up, 4 or 5 goals? Like, it was a barn burner. It was like 6-5, 7-5 in that game 1. So you can't count on that, and you've got to rely on your offense to score and your defense to actually play defense. They did not do in that Winnipeg game. But ultimately, you get Miro Heiskanen back. Everyone's very confident in that in round 1. So you get him back, and then all of a sudden you got Lindell and Heiskanen as your top line, as your top D pairing. And then you got Harley Labushkin, which has been very good this year. Then your third line, you can throw in Dumba, CC, whoever with Bischel, and all of a sudden you've got a healthy D pairing with Tyler Shagan back in the lineup. It looks a lot different, and there's not as much leakage, I guess, in the defensive end, and the forwards are all kind of doing what they do, and they have puck control, and they get into the zone and have clean entries and all that kind of stuff. That will happen. I would assume in the playoffs it'll be harder, but it will happen. So Winnipeg game was a bust, but move on to Colorado, afternoon game after playing a night game on Friday. So a little bit less rest. I know Colorado probably did the same thing, so it's not an advantage, but they were on the road. They've been on the road forever, it seems like now. And same thing happened. It was 13-3 shots in the first period, but we did get the first goal. Got lucky on that first goal. It hit off the puck, hit off the ref, stayed in the zone, and then Mikko Rantanen picked the pocket, shot it over to Rupe right back over to Robo. It's a beautiful tic-tac-toe. Awesome goal. And I was like, it could be one of those games where you just start off so slow and so bad, and all of a sudden you score a goal and it works out. It's not how it went at all.
It was really lucky that the ref kind of deflected it, but man, the passing between those 3 guys was a thing of beauty. And Robo has like that signature celebration, just that scream. And I believe he's leading the team in goals right now. And
yes,
just lightning quick shots. His one-timers look really good. And I was with you, like, we didn't have that many shots in the first period at all, but one goes in early, who knows what can happen.
Yeah, and that first period was really a testament of Jamie Benn. Unfortunately, he took 2 penalties for 6 minutes, put Colorado on the power play for 6 out of 20 minutes in the first period. You just cannot have that happen in any game, let alone a game against a division rival. But it happened. It was a high-staking double minor. 4 minutes. They scored on the second one of that. They did not score on the first one. So they were 1 for 3 in the power play, which for Colorado standards about average, so like 30%. They're going to be in that range. But you can't have that happen, especially in the first period. If you're going to take 6 total period penalty minutes, that's one thing. But doing that in the first period was an absolute disadvantage to the Stars. And Jamie's going to have those games. He does that every once in a while, and it's frustrating. But that's who he is as a player. He's going to play tough, and he's going to play stupid sometimes. But it is what it is. So rough first period, but he came out 1-1. You're like, okay, there's a chance here. And then second period just kind of fell apart. It just was more of the same in the first period, but no scoring chances, hardly at all.
Yeah, but was it the end of the first period when, listen, I think every team can complain about refs. It is what it is. But was it the first period when Marchman's stick comes
It was
nowhere
the end
near?
of the second period, yeah.
I
With like 20, 15 seconds left, something like that in the
Yeah,
second period.
and like it just controlled all of my Twitter. Like I didn't see it, and then I realized as people were talking about it, like, oh my gosh, that's not his stick. Like what?
I saw it in real time. I was like,
What
his stick was around the other guy, not. I don't know if it was Coyle or Brock Nelson. I can't remember who had the puck, but he tripped off of the other one, the Avalanche stick, and I saw Mason Marchman's stick in real time, and I was like, that wasn't his stick. There's no way they called that, and then immediately called it. Matt Duchene slams his stick on the ice. Mason Marchman starts aggressively going towards the refs, which is not a good sign. You don't want to get tossed from a game like Connor Bedard has 2 games in a row last week. But yeah, it was just a horrendous call. LASIK.com is tweeting about that call, about the refs. Like, if that's happening, it's really bad. And I think that's something that the NHL could take from the NBA is that you put that replay up on the board, on the scoreboard, like up above them. And if the refs see it, they're like, hey, we fucked that one up. We missed it. That's our bad. No penalty. We'll put a face-off dot right there where the puck was and just redo it, redo the play, no penalty. And I think that's something that the NHL could and maybe should implement. If they put it up on the board, then they can see it. If they don't put it up on the board, then we can't do anything about it because you're on an away team's ice. So they probably weren't going to put that on the video board. But in theory, I think that would be a really good rule to implement because there are missed calls. They are human, referees are, but they were really bad that whole game because the high stick on Jamie Benn, I watched it several times. It's the Colorado stick that hits him in the face. It is not Jamie Benn's stick. It is because of Jamie Benn, but it wasn't his stick. And the number one rule in hockey is be responsible for your own stick. And the guy hit himself in the face, went down. We got a double minor. They reviewed it because it can either be no penalty or a double minor. They stuck with the double minor, and it is what it is. They missed a lot of calls on Dallas, which we're prone to having over the last several seasons now. It's very frustrating, but yeah, I thought the refs were a little rough. And then that Mason Marchman tripping call where he is livid, and he's livid with most calls that are actually warranted. But there was a game earlier in the season where he missed a couple games because of it. He got cross-checked in the back while the puck is in the air. Someone flipped it into the offensive zone. He's waiting on it on the blue line. He gets cross-checked hard, goes down to the ground, loses his helmet because of it. Like it flies off his head. It's sitting on top of his head instead of real position. And they called offsides and not a cross-check on that. And then he ends up missing the rest of that game because of it. So it's frustrating. It is what it is. You got to deal with it. And I know Mush is frustrated, and rightfully so for that one. So, yeah, that second period was gross. You had the Mikael Granlund kind of breakaway. Loses the puck. It doesn't go in. And obviously Colorado goes on the offensive rush, and they score a goal immediately right off of that. So that being your one scoring chance and then it leading to a goal is horrendous. In all accounts, it's really bad. But yeah, you're down 3-1 heading into the third period, I believe. So,
I mean,
tough mountain to climb against Colorado of all people.
When you think about Mason Marchman this entire year, just dealing with so much stuff, like I would have gotten thrown out of that game if I was him.
I thought he was going to.
Yeah, like the commentators were talking about, man, he is hot, and he deserved to be hot. Like that was, if you miss a really close call, or if we're all human, but to be that bad, it's like, guys, it takes 3 seconds for somebody else to look at and say, this is a completely wrong call. Like the NBA does. But yeah, super frustrating second period.
Yeah, and then the third period was much of the same. 5-ish minutes left, 4 minutes. I think it's 5 minutes left, roughly in the game, and there's a lot of chaos in front of the Colorado net front, and there's 6 or so players right there, all battling for the puck, and all of a sudden the puck was in the net. I didn't see it in real time, didn't see it in the replay. Have no idea how it happened, but Maverick Bort got a goal there, his 10th goal of the season, by the way. And then all of a sudden it's a 3-2 game, and you're like, okay, we got a shot here. And then 20 seconds later, Matt Duchene scores another one in Colorado. Love to see Matt Duchene scoring in Colorado. It's 3-3 with about 4 minutes left in the game. And you're like, oh, we're going to get a point minimum. Like, we could walk away with a steal here and win 2 points and steal something from Colorado. They had a lot of good chances in those last 4 minutes too. Both teams did, but I think Dallas had a little bit more. And you're like, okay, at least they showed up for the last 5 minutes is kind of what I took away from that game.
Yeah, and Ottinger had a really good end to that third period too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he looked really solid towards the end. And we said this before we started recording, like they had no business getting a point in that game. Just the way things were going, the way, you know, you love Jamie Benn, but those things to get a point is actually really, really big. And those minutes when we were making that comeback, like that crowd was stunned when they saw a tie game with a couple of minutes left. Like it was, I got out of my seat. Yeah, it was good to see.
Yeah, and every time Duchesne had the puck on his stick, it was booing throughout the crowd, throughout the entire game. Every time he touched the puck, which he was a younger player. He was a little bit different back in Colorado and didn't know it necessarily what he wanted and didn't want to play there. He didn't like the coach. I think he liked the guys. Obviously, he's close with some of them still, but just continue booing him 10 years later is obnoxious. Like Kyrie in Boston is kind of the same way. Every time he touched the ball in the finals, it was a boo. And I get why they hate him, but you got better because of it and getting him out of there and then creating a different environment of your team. And obviously Colorado's won a cup since then. And now we have Rantanen. So it's even twofold. Like you got 2 guys that were loved players for a while in Colorado, but they didn't boo Mikko at all. I think everyone in Colorado is kind of on the same page there. It's like, and he said it multiple times. He never wanted to leave Colorado. He wanted to stay there. He was willing to work with them. And all of a sudden he's traded. Matt Duchene, he left on his own accord. Like he made sure that happened. And it is what it is. But it's been a decade, guys. So we can get over it.
Yeah. Like there are like really high quality character players in professional sports. And there's Matt Duchene. Like I think he invites fans to the suite for every single home game. Like he's so involved in the community. If there was a guy, it's like Jose Altuve gets hate for no reason as well. Like, yeah, you're hating on the most likable guy in the sport. Like,
yeah, Matt Duchene's awesome. Tough game, and then overtime you get the win on the draw, so you have puck possession, which means you have a 70% chance of winning the game if you just win the opening draw in overtime. I think is what it is. It's in the 60s or low 70s. Like it's insane, the number on that. And they get an offsides call. Mikko, I believe, went just offside right before the puck went across the blue line from Wyatt, and then you lose the draw, and all of a sudden chaos happens. Cale Makar happens, really. I was thinking about it the other day. So Cale Makar was taking 1 pick right after Miro Heiskanen. Do you think average Stars fans are like, man, we should have just taken Cale there, or are we good with Miro? And I have an answer. I just was curious what your thoughts are.
Okay, well, that draft is like in history as one of my favorite drafts. But if you switched Miro with Cale Makar, I feel like I feel like we're gonna have the same answer.
What are you gonna say?
No disrespect, but Cale Makar.
Okay, I'm on the opposite end. I think the Stars wanted to start a brand of hockey that they didn't have in the past. They wanted to go super team oriented over superstar kind of feel, where Cale Makar is a super duper star. He's the best defenseman in the league. He's one of the best players in hockey. Miro Heiskanen is the best, I would argue, the best defensive defenseman in the league. So they play two different styles of hockey, and I think the Stars were with Jim Nill were trying to start something and create a team environment where the team wins and not a guy wins, essentially. And every hockey team, the team wins. I get that, but sometimes there's teams like Colorado where you had Landeskog, Makar, McKinnon, Rantanen, and you had 4 superstars, and that you had depth and you had pieces and everything everywhere, but you were superstar heavy. Whereas the Stars, I think, have gone for depth and just being able to kill you on every line.
Yeah,
I
now that you're talking through it, I see your point.
I think
Also,
that's what they were trying to do. So I would stick with Miro because it's led you to having Rupe, now Granlund, Rantanen,
yeah,
Esa, Lindell. Like you have all of the Finns in the locker room because you wanted to play a certain style of hockey, which I believe is very Finnish, puck control, team oriented kind of thing. Don't have to be a hero. Just play the team hockey. The chances will come. I think that's
and
what they were going for, and that's why they took Miro.
also Rantanen said, his connection with the Dallas Finns, like it was a huge point in him picking Dallas. I mean, it's so funny to think if you're a Colorado fan, you probably have a Mikko Rantanen jersey, and now for the next 8 years, he's on the other side, and you would have never thought, like, this guy's ours, we believed in him from day one, and then things go south, but it's, there's no way he's gonna end up in Dallas, right? There's no way. There's no way. And he finds a way to get there. And man, like that game, even though it didn't go our way, was fun. And I think for the next 8 years that Miko's in Dallas, those Colorado games are going to be on national TV. They're going to be big time games. I love Victory Plus. I wish every game was on Victory Plus, but if TNT wants those games, I understand because there's a lot of star power on those two lineups.
Yeah, and in January, I called Vegas and Dallas the best rivalry in hockey. It is going to be Dallas and Colorado for the next 8 years because Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar are going to be there, and Mikko Rantanen is going to be in Dallas. It's the best rivalry in hockey. I don't care about Boston and Toronto. I don't care about Boston and Montreal. None of those matter to me. It's this one above all.
Yeah, and the whole league knows it now too. Like everybody outside of Dallas and outside of Colorado, everyone wants this series in the first round. I don't,
Yep.
but for hockey fans, it'll be really good.
It'll get the playoffs out to a hot start. Before we move off this topic, Robert Tiffin, Stars Thoughts, subscribe to his Substack. He's a great writer. He writes every day. He will have a new piece for you pretty much every single day. He writes after every single game. He's a blast. But he tweeted this out. Regular season records against an opponent don't determine a playoff series. So he's talking about the Stars and all the playoff matchups that they had last year. Last year, Dallas went 0-3 versus Vegas and won the series in 7 in the round 1. Dallas went 1-2-1 against Colorado last year in the regular season, beat them in 6. Dallas went 2-0-1 against Edmonton and lost in 6. So what happens in the regular season is not a determination of what is going to happen in the playoffs. Sure, they had 2 bad games against 2 playoff matchups that they're more than likely going to have in round 1 and 2, but doesn't mean that they're not going to win the series because of regular season hockey. And by then, Miro and Sagan are back, and all of a sudden, it's a different looking team than we saw this past weekend. Much more deep and much better, just because having Miro Heiskanen is going to do wonders for it, and then adding Tyler Sagan back into the lineup is going to do wonders for stability of lines. So it's going to be different. But before we talk about this week's games, I want to thank Zing Zang. Zing Zang responsibly, America's #1 Bloody Mary mix. We love Zing Zang over here. They got ready to drink cans with the alcohol and the Bloody Mary mix already infused in it. They're very easy to go on the go for tailgating. If you're getting ready for a Stars game, that might be an afternoon game on a weekend. Pop open one of those puppies. Just can get you ready to drink Bloody Mary from Zing Zang. So Zang responsibly. Shout out to Zing Zang and shout out to Prize Picks. Use code Apollo when you sign up and get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy app. This week, we got Anaheim and Tampa before we record again. So Anaheim tonight, Tuesday night, I'll be in American Airlines Center. Can't wait to watch him. Can't wait to watch Mikko Rantanen. Oh, Mikko Rantanen it's going to be my first time watching him as a Dallas Star in person. I can't wait to see it. He's going to be in the Victory Green. The crowd's going to be bumping. It's got to be for Mikko jerseys. Probably being on sale in the hangar today as well. So I think there's going to be a handful of them I see in the crowd, but maybe not until the next game. But Mikko Rantanen, he's going to play his first home game in Dallas against Anaheim. So odds are you're winning the game.
It's incredible. It's been this long. Like he's been with us for enough time, and the only time Stars fans have got to see him in person is at practice. And I heard that a lot of people were coming out, and it was really good show out for Dallas. And you were there. I mean, the picture you took of him, the guy's a monster.
He's so big.
Like, what I'm gonna love to see is the last two games. Peter DeBoer has been really changing along the lines. I think that's really good, just to see where everyone fits with each other. Granlund was moved up to the top and down to the bottom.
He's the new Dadonov.
Yeah, yeah. This is a really good game for that as well. And just as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, that's going to be really important. Like, just keep getting that chemistry with everybody. And man, this is probably don't have enough time to make that drive because right now it's like 2-hour traffic just to get out of Houston. But the second I can, I'm going to go see Mikko Rantanen live and in person because that's 8 years. We got 8 years.
That line of Robo, Rupe, and Rantanen looks so good when they're moving. When Rupe is just flying through the ice and Robo and Rantanen are getting to the right part of the ice, it's scary hours for the rest of the league, and especially against Anaheim of all teams. Like, just don't let Trouba get an elbow to the head tonight, and I'm walking away pretty happy, I would assume. So I hope he gets one in his first game, so we could talk to him post game in the locker room. But if he doesn't, he doesn't. But it's gonna be fun. I think we'll talk to him tonight just because it's his first home game, and we'll see how he feels, regardless if he scores a point or not. But yeah, it's the Ducks. You should come into this game hungry because you lost two big ones this past weekend. They should come out firing. I would expect 2 goals in the first period just because they're angry. Like, and when they play angry, they play really well, like so well. When they're pissed off about the previous game, when they lost to Columbus on the road earlier right before the trade deadline, they were pissed. They lost that game 5-3, and they came out and didn't they score 6 goals the next game? Like, it's like, I think we're going to see one of those. That's what I feel like we're going to get from Anaheim tonight.
I wouldn't hate DeSmith being in net tonight because the past couple games he's been in net, man, he has been money.
Yeah. Let me look at Mike Heika's Twitter. He always tweets out him and whoever goes to morning skate. I haven't been to a morning skate this year. Ottinger in goal, Blackwell and Dadonov out. Coach's decision. So I think it's not a get right game for Ottinger, but a lesser opponent to maybe get his confidence up, because I think he may have lost that Winnipeg game, but the defense was so bad I can't really put it on him. And then the Colorado one, he had that one-timer that turned into a knuckleball instead of a fastball, essentially, that went over his head into the net. So you want to see him make that save, but I get why he didn't. I think they're just getting him in there, and then DeSmith will play against Tampa, which I don't know. Doesn't seem right, but DeSmith's been really good this year, so I don't know. What do I know? I'm not the coach.
No. Yeah, exactly. But definitely they'll probably 1-1, and I think that's fine. I mean, Ottinger, if he looks really good tonight, I think that'll really boost his confidence. So don't hate it.
Yeah. And then Thursday night, big matchup against Tampa Bay, Stanley Cup rematch from 2020 in the bubble. And I want to see a win. I want to see a win against a really good team, which they've beaten really good teams this year, but I want to see it on the Eastern side because in the past couple of years, the Eastern Conference has kind of just not owned Dallas like their top teams, but they played so well and they lose a lot of close games against the Eastern Conference. I want to see a good win against probably, I would argue, the top team in the Eastern Conference at full strength right now after the trade deadline. Like, they're so good and they're going for it. They don't have a pick until 2030, top first round pick. Like, they've traded everything. So yeah, I want to see a really good win against a really good Eastern Conference team, kind of boost that confidence, get back up. And I know you got to make it through the West when it comes to Stanley Cup playoffs, but I want to see something against an Eastern Conference team.
Yeah, they have really good depth, particularly on that third line. So that's the line I'm going to be watching. I'm really going to watch for Maverick Borg. I'm really going to watch for all those guys on the lower lines. And I just want to see a really, really tight, no mistake-free game from them.
Yeah, and it'll be my first time seeing Kucherov in person, so that'll be fun. That was one thing that I was really looking forward to, getting press access this year, was seeing all the opposing players, superstars that come into town. Like, saw Crosby earlier in the season. I didn't get to end up watching Ovechkin. I had something that night when they came to Dallas early in the season, so wasn't able to go to that one. But seeing some superstars across the league come play in Dallas is a fun thing for opposing fans or for home fans. Like, A lot of fans just don't watch hockey in general outside of their team, and a lot of fans across all sports. Like, it's tough, especially when there's 82 games. You don't want to spend every single night watching everyone across the league, but we're sickos. We like to do that. So I'm excited to watch Kucherov.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. I mean, I'm getting more and more, and I'll probably come back up there for Winnipeg, thinking about Minnesota, thinking about a lot of games, and definitely the playoffs. So seeing it live in person is just night and day, man.
It's so different. Because I told you, I was like, Stan Coven's my favorite player. And you're like, I mean, okay, that's cool. And then you watched him against Vegas that night, and you're like, okay, I get it now. I understand why you like watching him so much. Because it's different. It feels different. It looks different. It's very strange.
And I cannot wait for Mikko Rantanen in that green.
I want to wait till the offseason if they announce a different third jersey. Because the rumor is that Fanatics wants to get all of the Adidas version of the jerseys out. So whatever third jerseys or reverse retros and all that kind of stuff that teams are playing, they want to get rid of them and make their own. So if we do that with Dallas, get rid of the blackout, make a different blackout version. I love the black jersey. Just put the victory green on it, and I'm happy. You could even do what they have right now and just put victory green on there with a little bit of white piping. I think that jersey would play. So I'm going to wait and see what happens there, probably for a Rantanen jersey. But I may jump the gun. I may just end up buying the victory green one and roll with that. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
If he goes off in the playoffs, my debit card is not safe. Put it to you that way.
No. I also learned from Sam Nessler that if they win the cup, I get to go on the ice after the game, if it's at home.
Apollo on the ice?
Apollo on the ice after a championship game?
That is
possibly.
It's still crazy to me that, like, dude, I'm just talking to a guy that's, he's in the locker room. He knows the boys. Like, it's wild to get that kind of access is nuts to me, but it's awesome, dude. Apollo's on the rise, and like, one day when we get a Houston team, I'll be in Stoney's shadow, and Stoney will be the guy that I follow after.
Yeah, we'll get you access for the arrows. It shouldn't be too hard. If I got it for the Stars and we don't have a Stars or a Dallas connection and for Apollo right now, and I was able to get access for the entire year, odds are we can get you in with the arrows or whoever they're going to be called. So, yeah, that's just a little tidbit and something to look forward to if it happens. Like, that would be pretty cool if they did it on home ice and just be in the locker room afterwards, drinking beers with the boys, having a good time. Seeing the cup in the locker room would be insane. And seeing the cup on the ice would be insane. I hope I don't fall if that happens. Like, something to look forward to. Not counting on it. Just a tidbit of information I received last week, and that would be really cool. So, yeah, tough weekend, but it's a new day. It's a new dawn, and Mikko Rantanen is going to be wearing victory green tonight. So, something to look forward to.
All those frowns from this last week, they'll be flipped.
Absolutely.
That first Mikko Rantanen goal,
place is going to erupt. It's going to go crazy. And the first Wyatt goal after the extension in victory green at home. Think about that. Get one for each tonight. Places, we're not going to have a roof anymore at American Airlines. So we'll be back later this week. We'll talk Friday. We'll do another podcast. We'll get it out probably Friday afternoon, and we'll recap the Anaheim and Tampa games and preview the weekend. It's going to be fun when we got an afternoon game on Saturday. Won't be going. I'm going to stay home, but they're back home. That's the big thing. Back home.
Absolutely. I cannot wait.
It's going to be fun. Mikko Rantanen tonight in Dallas for the first time. It's going to be a blast. We'll be back very, very soon with another episode of Clean Sheet of Ice, the Texas Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Zing Zang, America's #1 Bloody Mary Mix. Go get it wherever you get your Bloody Mary Mix. They also have margarita mix if you're into margaritas. Go get one of those. We're Texans. We love margaritas. Go get Zing Zang for your margarita mix. Shout out to Prize Picks, our daily fantasy app of choice. It's where you hit more or less on every stat, every night, every game, every player. It's very easy. Use code Apollo when you sign up and get up to $100 match. So go win some money with Prize Picks using code Apollo when you sign up. Shout out to Zing Zang, Prize Picks, you, Dom. Shout out to Stars fans. We'll be back very, very soon. Another episode of Clean Sheet of Ice, a Texas Hockey Podcast presented by Apollo Media.